We'll talk as well about this BBC alleged cover-up over the Diana interview. We'll talk about Omid Scobie, apparently now U-turning on, pretty much everything that he said previously about this new book. And the cost of lockdowns has been revealed, and the poverty gap in the United Kingdom is now worse than it was at the financial crash of 2008. And apparently there is now almost a Dickensian, Victorian-style divide between the haves and the have-nots, and that is as a result of lockdown. So we're going to also discuss how history will view lockdown. The leading lawyer, Paul Britton, will be here and holding my hand through some of these stories and a few others as well. And all of that is over the course of the next hour, right here on TalkTV. And let's introduce him. He's here. He's the leading criminal lawyer. It's Paul Britton.
Good morning, Cristo.
I feel like I need an applause button.
Is this your belated birthday wishes to yourself?
No, what, by applauding?
If anyone missed it yesterday, it was Cristo's birthday yesterday. He's 32.
That's all we've spoken about. No, 29.
Okay, 29. Sorry, he hasn't reached the 30 club
I am
yet.
Not 30.
No.
Clearly, I have.
Clearly, yeah. Anyone watching will know that.
Yet, thank you. And anyone listening will now know that.
Yeah.
It feels like I should have turned 60. It was such a big birthday, or even 50, or even 40.
I did see a clip on Facebook with all your wishes, and I saw you getting a bit choked up.
I was quite emotional.
I got a bit choked up with you getting choked up.
I couldn't believe that all those people and all those people in my life and all those celebs and everything else had made such an effort.
It was a nice touch.
It was a very nice touch. So I have to, thank producer Johnny and thank all of those people, Ingrid as well, and all of those other people, and for actually. And my partner did it.
I saw, yeah.
And he absolutely hates things like that.
But he did that for you.
He
and for Johnny.
And for Johnny, yeah, he did do that. And he was actually at the COP28
Good.
when he did it. So he was in a golf cart at COP28 when he was...
It was all selfie kind of cameras.
Because he must have done it because he's only got back a couple of days ago because he's been out in... I think, where was COP? I can't remember it, but he's been out in the Middle East, in various places in the Middle East for the last 2 weeks. So... and
Johnny said some very kind words about you, that he loves working with you. You're the only one here that he likes working with.
Easily pleased. But also, I think producers like working with me, if I'm honest, and I'm being self-indulgent, because...
I'm caressing your ego now, and
but I tell you, it's not ego, because they don't really have to do anything. I say that with love. They don't have to do anything.
You do it all for
I don't have loads of guests.
Yeah.
I just talk. And I don't need loads of stuff.
But you were lost for words yesterday.
I was lost for words yesterday.
Were you genuinely lost for words?
Yeah, I was. I didn't.
I was looking at you thinking, is he lost for words?
No, I didn't know what to say. I was a bit overwhelmed and actually a bit embarrassed as well.
That's quite sweet then.
Because tell him how you like your tea. Yes, that's the thing. I like my tea in a certain way. That's the only thing that makes me a diva. But content-wise, God, you can give me any old nonsense and it's fine. I mean, look at what I got.
Milk and 2 sugars.
I like the mug warmed.
You don't?
I do.
So you boil the kettle, warm the mug up,
boil the kettle, warm the mug up, take the water out. Then, if I'm having proper tea, I've not been having caffeine lately. I don't know why, but I'm in a caffeine drought.
Yeah.
So,
but there is caffeine in tea.
Yeah, but so that's what I'm saying. I'm not having. It's very rare. I'm having a cup of tea at the moment.
Tea then, or something.
Yeah, I'm having peppermint at the moment. Yeah. But if I have a proper cup of tea, I want the mug warmed first. Then I want the water put in the mug first, the boiling water. Then the tea bag dropped in.
Yeah.
I don't like the water hitting the tea bag because it makes it really foamy sometimes.
First world problems, huh?
Then. I like the tea bag kept in for a couple of minutes so it's strong, but then I like a good glug of milk so it's strong and milky, because a lot of people think that milky means weak tea. No, I like strong tea, but also a lot of milk.
You know, there's a cup you can get, a mug that warms itself now.
Yes, that would be a very good... But isn't it metal? Isn't it metallic?
Well, when did you care about your carbon footprint? I think it's lined. It'll be fine. I'll get you one for Christmas.
Certainly not about my carbon footprint. It's about, because I've got a mug that I drink out of, which is a mobile one, but it's China.
Yeah.
Because I don't like drinking from metal or plastic.
No,
as well.
The cups they give you in Starbucks and Pret, I can't drink out of those. They're like,
are they metal?
They're like lined with wax or something.
No, I don't like things like that. No, I like a. Well, actually, in fairness, I like a China.
Just tell them you're going to drink in and then walk out with the mug.
Yeah, that's easier.
Bring it back next time.
I like a. Well, it's actually that's not made of China.
Cristo,
I like a China mug.
I bet they don't have these kinds of mugs in Rwanda.
That's a nice segue. That's made me now seem.
Here we go.
Extremely.
I bet they don't warm their cups. I wonder if they have foamed milk.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I wonder if they complain about wax-lined
all of these ridiculous
cups.
things, wax-lined cups. No, we just ship all of our, probably all of the empties there. That's where we put them.
All of our asylum seekers, apparently.
So,
I have my calculator ready, so if anyone can give us the actual figures.
I don't think I got anyone.
We'll work out what it's costing the country.
How much is it
But
costing?
we do need to know how many asylum seekers there are.
Okay, well, what is 3 million... Sorry, what is 300 million?
300 million? Is it? Oh, I don't know. Yeah, go on.
Zeros on your calculator.
Yeah, I have actually, yeah.
Divided by 500.
Is that all it is?
I think it's 600,000.
That's all right.
Was I right?
That's absolutely right.
So 600,000.
You're wasted on this show.
I am.
You should be doing countdown.
I should be doing countdown. Do you know...
Oh, here we go.
No.
Countdown.
Once, this is the only time it's about. Once
Caroline Vorderman, watch out.
I got the countdown numbers game, and she didn't. And she said, you can't do it. And I was like, yes, you can. I was like, you can. I just did it. You can.
Yeah, but you were sitting there with an abacus going.
Yeah, I was sitting there with a calculator. No, I love the numbers game on Countdown. That is my favourite thing. Because I love mental arithmetic. I really do. I think it's.
I always thought they were quite simple, even like when I was younger. I don't know why people struggle, but maybe it's the pressure and the dun dun dun. And
but also, I think it's really important because, and we'll get back to Rwanda in a moment. But one of the reasons why I think younger people are not all younger people, but a lot of younger people are. I've made this point before. You immediately reach for your phone to know anything now. And
well, I've got the calculator up, haven't I?
But you actually give yourself dementia.
Well,
give yourself dementia because the whole point of you've got to keep your brain going, and the symptoms that you get, you don't develop the neural pathways in your brain when you're young. If you don't problem solve, that's the whole.
Well, it's when they name generations, like we're the millennials, aren't we? And then the next generation after us are known as the Zoomers.
Yeah.
But they probably could have been the Googlers. Well, yeah, and now the new generation, they're calling, I don't know, you'll love this. Do you know what they're calling the new generation?
What?
Generation Alpha.
Oh, so they've gone back to A now.
They're Gen A. But what's going to be the, what's going to be the, like, the shorthand, like millennials, baby boomers, what's it going to be?
The Alphas.
Well, I'd call them the lazies.
I just think that
the unmotivated,
they're not going to know
the Instagrammers
how to do anything. We used to have to remember how to get places. You used to have to ask people for directions and remember, so I turn left, down where at the roundabout? Okay, all of that stuff, and that keeps your brain going.
Yeah, but Cristo, we were the generation that went out to play, and no one could get hold of us for hours, and your mum and dad would worry where you were until you got home.
Well, my mum would
not picked up from the school gate. We used to walk home. And then the buses came, and you got on the bus.
Actually, I mean, I had a different kind of upbringing. When I was like 17
Did your parents
or 18,
pick you up at the gate?
No, but I would go to a pub, and it would be a pub I've never been to before in my life, where I've absolutely, had no plans to go to, but the evening took me there, and then there'd be a phone call, and it would be like, is there a Cristo in it? Your mum's on the phone. She'd have found me.
Because you went to the pub? So your pub, I don't get this. Your pub was the meeting point, or you just had to go there after school?
No, I would go to a different... No, not when I was at school. This is when I was older, because my mum would be like, what time are you going to be home? Where are you?
And you're just at a pub?
And I'm just at a pub, a random pub I've never been to before.
That's very naughty.
Once I went to a nightclub when I was 15.
That's normal. Yeah, which nightclub?
It's not normal when your mother...
Which nightclub?
It was the National in Kilburn.
I never went there.
And it was... it's not normal that your mother comes down to the club and walks onto the dance floor and marches you off by pulling you by the ear.
And your mum was a happy birthday yesterday as well. Yeah.
But she was formidable when I was growing up. She'd
get hold of you and drag you out?
She dragged me out. She dragged me out, dragged me home.
She had
made my brother drive her down in his little Suzuki Jeep, and I had to sit in the backseat of the Suzuki Jeep all the way home, just going, the shame
Let's just throw up in the back of the car. So that will teach you. Don't pick me up at the pub. Let me come home later.
Was unbelievable. The shame of it. And then what had happened, because I'd snuck down there. I mean, this is the most ridiculous story ever, but I'd snuck down to a nightclub when I was 15 with my friend Gavin Green, and we'd waited. I told my mum that I was staying at Gavin Green's house.
Gavin might want to dispute these facts later.
And so I rang up from a payphone to say, just go to bed now. There's the sound of the traffic in the background. Yeah. So I was not a very competent at being duplicitous. Then we went to the nightclub. My mum, twigged, found out, went down, dragged me home. I was grounded, right? But the next day, what had happened was that because we'd snuck down there, we'd had to have a change of clothes. Right. I'd thrown my backpack over the fence of the park, right, in order to hide my clothes, because I didn't want to take my backpack to the nightclub. So the next day I was grounded, and I said to my mum, "Oh, listen, I just want to go out for a walk." And she was like, "Why do you want to go for a walk?" I was like, "Oh, just clear my head after the last 24 hours." My mum, who was not a stupid woman,
she twigged.
Like, "You're morbidly obese. Why do you want to go for a walk? What are you talking about? You've never gone for a walk in the entire time I've known you."
I'm turning over a new leaf, Mum.
So then I had to come clean and tell her that my backpack with my nice trousers in and my new Sony Sports Walkman that I had for my birthday, which was bright yellow, do you remember those? Was in the bag, and then I'd thrown it over the fence of the park. And then when I got to the park, because the park was beside the railway line, right, in St Albans, and there had been a spate of IRA attacks, they had defused my bag and blown it up in a controlled explosion. So I lost. I had to go
the
home.
Disruptions you caused to commuters.
Well, it was a Sunday, so it wasn't so bad. So then I had to go home and say, I was like, "Where's your new Walkman?" And I said, "Well, the army blew it up because they thought it was a suspicious package that they found by the railway."
Did you make a compensation claim?
I didn't. I should have done.
If only you knew me then.
Well, I think it was my fault. Because the IRA previously, a month or two before, had actually tried to blow up the tracks in St Albans, because it was during all the IRA time. So
Cristo.
That was
your misspent youth.
My misspent youth. I thought this was supposed to be the paper review. You're quite right. So let's go back to Rwanda. I don't know
Rwanda, okay.
By
Rishi
using the calculator. So, from a legal point of view, sorry for being so self-indulgent. You're quite right to pull me up.
Here we go.
From a legal point of view, the Conservative lawyers today, it's reported in
the papers.
Some of the newspapers, Sunday Telegraph particularly, Tory Star Chamber rejects PM's flight plan, and apparently the verdict risks creating a major crisis for the Prime Minister. From a legal perspective, as you are a lawyer, what's going on here?
This is the current government thinking it's a good idea to send asylum seekers. Now, just some people talk about immigrants in general, but it's not. It's the asylum seekers that we are proposing to send to Rwanda to be housed pending the outcome of their application. Now, what the Supreme Court has said is that there is a risk, one, to safety of those asylum seekers when they're in Rwanda, and also there is a chance that they will be forced back to their country of origin, where they will be persecuted and their safety will be in danger. Now, what the government has done to almost circumnavigate the Supreme Court's decision is to say, well, we'll enter into, at the moment it's a memorandum of understanding, but ultimately a treaty where they won't do that, and then they'll say that it's lawful because they will be safe. They'll go to Rwanda, their applications will be heard and decided, and they'll either come here as an asylum seeker or return to their country of origin.
But also there is the added confusion that some people, that the government are attempting, if I'm right, in having Rwanda declared a safe country.
That's right.
But there are still some people who could claim asylum from Rwanda if they wanted to.
So do you mean people living in Rwanda?
Yeah. So you could be say that you are being repressed in Rwanda.
Well, look, their laws aren't particularly great towards homosexuals, for example, same-sex couples. So that sort of person could seek asylum in this country and end up being housed in their own country in some sort of
So you'd have this perverse situation where you could claim asylum from Rwanda because, I don't know, you're being repressed because you're gay.
Yeah.
And that you might end up being, there will be a danger to you, so you need to claim asylum. So you'll come to the UK to claim asylum.
And you get sent
and then
back.
you end up getting sent back to Rwanda to get your processing. And so then the Rwandan government would decide, or the Rwandan president.
Well, that's the farcical nature of it. I think the original reasoning for this was that it would save us money in the long run. It would be cheaper
because of the deterrent.
It would be cheaper. Well, there's that as well. Well, yeah, But does this come back to the stopping of the boats?
Well, yes, and that I'm in favour of. I mean, I do think we need to do something to stop the boats.
Yeah.
But the Prime Minister seems to believe...
Why do you want to stop the boats?
Because it's dangerous, because it's paying for lots and lots of people to who are people traffickers and people with terrible intention.
Yeah.
So there's
serious organised crime.
Serious organised crime.
And the trafficking of human beings.
The trafficking of human beings.
Yeah.
The dangerous, perilous journey.
And they do die.
Where people die, and also the fact that then when they do end up on these shores, because of the government are completely ruining the idea of being able to process them quickly, which is again a problem of their own making, it is costing us money to house them.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, 3 problems that need to be solved. The biggest problem with all of this is that this Rwanda thing won't solve the problem because it won't get through. The Prime Minister seems to think, look, we'll get one flight over there and that will be enough of a deterrent.
The whole thing is Rishi is just setting himself up for a total embarrassment. I mean, he already has been with the Supreme Court judgment, but to be so belligerent and say, oh, now we're going to just do this and circumnavigate the law, it's just ridiculous. I think he'd been better off just burying it. We've got a general election coming up, May at the latest? So it's going to be...
He could go till January next year.
Is that how long it can be?
Yes, but I also think the other element of this, we've got to get to a break in a second, but also that in beyond the 4-year period fixed... So usually the Parliament is 4 years, but you can go into 5 years.
That's right.
But I have a feeling that in the 5th year, and maybe someone can tell me this, but in the 5th year of a parliament, the House of Lords has the power to reject legislation and the government can't bounce it back to the House of Lords again. I think that's why after the 4th year...
Or do you mean under the Parliament Act they can actually skip the House of Lords and go to assent now? They don't have to go through the House of Lords. No, I think it's the other way round. Yeah.
I think the House of Lords has the power in the 5th year to say... You can't... Usually, you're right, in the first 4 years, if the House of Lords rejects legislation, they can skip it and go to royal assent after a couple of...
Push it through.
Ebbing and flowing. But I think in the 5th year of a parliament, the power of the government goes for doing that, and the House of Lords does not have the... has the power to reject legislation, and they can't bypass the House of Lords. So even if the vote passes in the Commons... That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to
So when it comes to the election,
Lords.
it's going to be... So let's say it is as late as... So I think it's going to be roughly about May, June, but you're saying it could be the end of the year, December.
It could be end of the year. I mean, they don't like doing it in winter, but it could be. All right, when we come back, we'll talk more about this. And we'll also talk about the cost of lockdowns, because that's another big front-page story today, and that is all here on TalkTV. Morning, it's Cristo here on TalkTV. I've got a question for you. Paul Britton, leading criminal lawyer. Always Red says, given Paul is a lawyer, please can you advise me how I can claim asylum in Rwanda? I've had enough of the UK and I feel persecuted by Fishy Rishi.
OK, so that is Rwandan law is not within my skill remit. I deal with England and Wales. I'm so sorry.
It's great the way Cristo wanders in his conversations. You never know what's next, but it must be a producer's nightmare. No, I don't think the producer really cares. As long as we're still chatting away. Thank you for that. Philip, morning, Cristo. Been up all night with the dreaded novo virus. Makes COVID feel like a picnic in comparison. But thank you to you and Kinsey for being there to cheer me up. Philip, hope you get well soon. That's all a nice thing to have. Kevin says, I think you were a bit generous saying that Harry and Meghan were at Walmart level. I think they're more Aldi, says Kevin. Thank you. And thank you for your kind words. Thomas, this morning, nice to have you on board. And Dallas as well wants to talk about the COVID study, saying, isn't that what the inquiry should be concentrating on instead of giving a microphone to Dominic Cummings and Matt Hancock to air their petty grievances? Thank you. Rwanda, apparently...
you fact-checking?
Yeah, because someone has just said that homosexuality is not illegal in Rwanda.
So the act of intimacy between same-sex couples probably isn't illegal, but I don't think they can get married. They can't form civil partnerships.
But is that enough to claim asylum?
Well,
elsewhere?
also look at how, I think one of the important factors that you'd need to look at would be the crime rates against same-sex couples or homosexuals.
Yeah, and people aren't open about it.
So if there was a significant risk that if you returned to Rwanda as a gay man, that you were going to be beaten, maimed, or even killed, this includes things like honour killings. Well, then it's not safe for you to return, and then if you could prove it, then you would be likely to get asylum here.
So same-sex sexual activity is legal. The age of consent is equal to straight people, but there is no anti-discrimination laws, no anti-discrimination laws in employment, no anti-discrimination laws in the provision of goods and services. You could be rejected from a job or from somewhere that you want to shop at or go to because of your sexuality. No same-sex marriage, no recognition of same-sex couples, no adoption, no joint adoption. You can't go into the military, and all of those sorts of things. So whilst it's not illegal, you will not be arrested. There is a level of repression that you may well face as a result of your sexual orientation.
And that would be your starting point for your application for asylum, to say that I've got no protection, and then you would want to go on to what the risk factors are of you being discriminated against, and then the severity of that discrimination, whether it just be words or, dare I say, move on to like the things I said, being attacked.
Well, it doesn't sound like if you are attacked for being gay that there would be any recognition in law that would be the motive.
But by our standards, so it would be by our standards in this country.
Yeah, rather than... So it essentially couldn't be seen as a hate crime. Just because
it's illegal, let's just say it was legal to beat someone in a foreign jurisdiction for being gay. It was totally legal. In fact, let's say it was a defence. Well, I beat him because he was gay. That's not by our standards. So the asylum would be judged by our standards, which is that's outrageous.
Yeah,
and
I understand.
Protection.
And even human rights in general, there have been some real issues around human rights as recently as 2020 in Rwanda. This is general human rights rather than human rights regarding your sexual orientation. So it doesn't seem like the most logical place to send people.
But human rights violations, there isn't a country that doesn't violate human rights.
Yeah, and it depends, I suppose, on your threshold of what is human rights.
We do as well here. It's not really a great measure. And human rights depends from generation to generation.
What I don't get about this is that, okay, it's a worthy objective to try and stop the boats, right?
Because people are dying.
Because people are dying, but also we don't know how many people are coming. We don't know how randomly that they're coming. We don't know who people are. We have to look after them when they're here because we don't know whether we have to just get them processed. All of those sorts of things. Now, Australia were really ambitious about it. And they said, we're processing everyone off the shores of Australia. And I can't remember the name of the island that they used, but they used a couple of islands to do so, and that was where they created processing centres. That was where, if you were on a boat, you were taken off that boat if it wasn't safe, and you were taken to those islands, and the crossings went from thousands of people to zero.
Where were they crossing from to Australia? I mean, it's...
I need to look it up, but I remember it was under Tony Abbott. It was a massive success in stopping the boats. Why can't we have that kind of thinking?
Yeah,
and
we'll just use the Isle of Wight. We'll send them there or something.
Well, I mean, I don't know if they'd like it on the Isle of Wight.
Well, this is what I mean. I mean, our islands. I mean, where would we send them? Because our islands tend to be quite heavily inhabited, and I'm sure the people that are there would not want that very much.
They were taken to overseas island detention centres, but many people have criticised it, but many people have said, that they have been almost inspired by it.
But I wonder, but it's doing it properly, isn't it? How have they gone about it? How quickly are they processing applications? How safely are they transporting people? What was their problem? I don't know if synergies can be compared to the UK and our situation. I mean, ours are coming from France. What are France doing?
They sent Australia's policy was to send people arriving by boat to detention centres in Papua New Guinea and the Pacific island of Nauru. Migrants were offered return to their home countries, and recognised refugees were offered resettlement in another one. As the boats have stopped arriving, no one has been sent offshore since 2014. It just stopped people coming. The UK said that it would like to send those arriving illegally back to their home country or a third country where it claims to seek asylum in the UK, or that third country could be processed. So there is a similarity there. Australia's policy was, and still is, should any boats arrive, to detain them indefinitely, even once sent offshore. Most were freed only when their claim for asylum was resolved, and they were either deported or added to wait lists for resettlement in another country. The Australian government's policy, although not enshrined in law, is that anyone sent to an offshore processing centre will never be resettled in Australia, even if they are recognised as a refugee. And there were turnbacks at sea as well.
And that was the law.
Well, they never enshrined it in law. The Australian government's policy, although not enshrined in law, is that anyone sent to an offshore processing centre would never be resettled in Australia. But arguably, the most important aspect of Australian policy in 2013 was the reintroduction of turnbacks at sea. Now, these were first used in 2001 to 2003. This was Tony Abbott's government in 2013 that did all this. Defined by the Abbott government as the safe removal of vessels from Australian waters, passengers and crew returned to their countries of departures. Boats were prevented from reaching shore, and there was a dramatic reduction in arrivals by sea. Now, in last year, the UK government stopped their plans to do this. We had actually thought about doing this because the Royal Navy refused to do the operations. The military conducted trials of practices similar to those performed by Australian armed forces, but declared them inappropriate.
Well, the Australians are slightly behind us in the way of thinking, I have to say. They're a little bit more authoritarian, and they tend to just get on with things a little bit more. We have other considerations to play, which are human rights, and I should imagine the Royal Navy have said that it's not, when they say it's inappropriate, they're probably saying we're actually putting these people at danger, turning their boats around.
What about the human rights of those people who are actually physically in the boats whose lives are in danger?
But you're dealing with
But
you're dealing with the situation as it presents itself to you. So yes, they are in danger. So that you've arrived at that moment in time. It's too late. They're in the boat. They're in front of you. What do? You turn them around and send them back. The Royal Navy, I'm guessing, are probably saying it's inappropriate means it's not safe. So what's the alternative? You take them on the boat, you bring them into your country.
I think the alternative is that we build an offshore processing island. Genuinely, I think that is about the only alternative that we should come up with.
I think, look, where are the boats coming from? They're coming from France.
Yeah.
We should be turning to the French and say, and we are still sending them millions.
We gave them £500 million over 3 years to fund extra police patrols, but the French don't want them, so the French are waving off the boats.
But the French should be stopping them at their borders when
But the
they
French-
come in
but-
from
but
wherever
it's
they're coming in
but
from,
it's solving-
Spain, Germany, or wherever it is.
Well, there lies one of the issues, though, with the EU, is that there's the free movement of people.
That's right.
And there is a fair criticism of the EU, if you're going to talk about it in the refugee point of view.
Yeah.
But this did solve the problem of people trying to get asylum in Australia. Now, OK, Rwanda is probably too far away. I don't see why. If we were talking about putting an airport on an island at one point in the Thames, like literally building it
that's
in the
right,
sea,
yeah.
why can't we build...
Well, that's what the Chinese do. I mean, they just build islands, don't they? When
Yeah.
they want one for like military bases or airports or whatever they want.
Why can't we build a processing centre
Because this country is allergic to spending money like that.
in the sea? And why can't we just have this, more blue sky thinking, more ambitious thinking, and saying, look, this is where you will be taken there. You will be towed there. If you land on British shores, you will be taken to that centre, and it is a processing centre.
And as the Australians have said, that prohibits you now from seeking asylum in the UK.
Well, see, now that I still think if you are genuine in your pursuit of asylum, and you have links to the UK and you have helped the UK. So, for instance, what I find troubling about that Australian side of the policy is that someone who perhaps from
Well, that's a massive deterrent. If I do
is,
this,
but then
I
what
will never get asylum.
But then what about people who helped us in Afghanistan? You know, there
Yeah.
were people who helped us when it came to Afghanistan that we've not given asylum to, and
No.
I think that's shameful.
I do as well.
So there must be cases. I think they should be dramatically fewer cases, but there should still be cases as a decent country that we are where we say, actually, you do have the right to be here. You helped us in interpreting during the conflict in
Yes, we
Afghanistan.
went into your country, we spent 20 years ruining it, and then we pulled out.
And you helped us.
And
you have the right.
our government then give asylum and take in a Ukrainian refugee, which isn't our war, something that we caused, but something that we did cause damage to. We just don't seem to be giving them any help. And
Well,
I just
especially
find
if
that
they helped
outrageous.
us.
You kind of hit a little bit of a sore spot with me, because I just think the way that we treated Afghanistan and Iraq, and the way we treat Ukraine, just the hypocrisy, that's not our war, but we'll take people there and the government will pay us to take refugees from there. But the country that we went into and destroyed for 20 years, they're getting no help at all. And the Taliban are back in there.
I agree. And the number we took a small handful of people from Afghanistan. So there are exceptions where I think anyone decent would say, actually, you have the right.
But these aren't headlines and these aren't vote winners, are they? And actually, I think what politicians have a duty to do is actually educate people rather than grab headlines and try and grab vote stories. And this stopping the boats, they think that's going to get them some votes. But anyone intelligent looking at it is going to analyse it like we have and say, no, that's not a great policy.
Okay, well, Dan from Kent says the government don't want to stop migration. That must be the bottom line for that. Thank you.
The government don't want to stop migration.
No, they don't. Ultimately, that's what people believe. Well, that's what this person believes, Dan. Alison says, listening to your discussion re Rwanda, why on earth do the government think they can circumnavigate the law? As your discussion shows, it's not all black and white. We would expect other countries to be sympathetic to our plight if it was the other way round, says Alison. Thank you. Another one here saying, Cristo, your guest has just said that all countries have human rights infringements. So that would mean we can't send anyone anywhere.
Yeah, that's...
Speaking as somebody who has spent time in Rwanda, I would sooner walk through the back alleys of Kigali in the early hours of the morning than the back alleys of East London. Thank you for that.
I don't know about that.
Jason in Bournemouth, I just don't understand this Rwanda malarkey. We will not be able to send a significant amount of refugees that's going to make any difference. Therefore, how can it become a deterrent? So Jason in Bournemouth. Well, it was like what was it called? The boat. What was that boat called? It had a funny name. The Bibby. The
Bounty?
The Bibby. The Bibby Stockholm.
Okay.
You know, the big boat that they were going to house people in that ended up full of
that's right,
E. coli.
Where's that gone now?
Well, yeah, but that was only going to take a few hundred as well.
But hang on, what? That's true. That's fallen out of the headlines. What happened to the boat?
I don't know what happened to the boat. It's probably like riddled with E. coli. Anyway, the point is, like, so we have these big headlines that it's going to be like a couple of hundred people. Well, there's thousands of people we're talking about here. And so I feel like there's an awful lot of sort of, let's fiddle about it over here. Apparently, what is it doing? It's currently locked. I can't see what it is. That's too. It's not the right colour. Oh, it's docked in the port of Portland in Dorset. According to the Bibby Line website, the barge is touted as luxury living and features a gym, bar and games room. I don't know whether it's got anyone on board.
But they were going to put 5 people in a room and things like that.
I thought it was an incubus of E. coli. But anyway, either way, all of this is just an absolute distraction from actually solving the problem. And we need to just be ambitious about how we solve this problem. And also, what that ambition would give us is also some humanity about the genuine people whom I know, if you saw a woman and child who was genuine, you'd say, oh my God, we should take them in. And I think that was the difference with Ukraine, by the way.
Cristo, when you're done here, you need to go into politics. Give us some more ambitious, because I totally agree. I mean, the widening of the M25, it wasn't ambitious enough. It's clogged up again.
Do you know, if it was down to me, if I got into power, I would literally, the day I was in power, I'd be down in the JCB, firing up those bulldozers and flattening those villages to get that third runway built that we've been talking about since 1948.
I'd be multi-storeying the M25, so the top bit would go one way and the other bit would go anti-clockwise.
We've got to stop. All we do is talk about stuff just to get some stuff done. We
build
never
some hospitals.
Just do it.
Yeah.
There's so much new.
But it's all half-hearted efforts. It's all just, we'll do it and then we'll stop. What's going on with Crossrail and?
Oh God, all of it. We just endlessly procrastinate and discuss, and then we do a half-hearted load of old rubbish. HS2 is another example. Just like build it, get it done. Anyway, listen, we must go to a break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about someone who procrastinates where the truth is concerned, and that's Omid Scobie. And also we'll do the cost of lockdown as well, because that's a really important story, and all of that when we return here on TalkTV. Morning, it's Cristo here on TalkTV, and we sort of ended up being frustrated about why it is we just don't seem to have more ambition when it comes to trying to come up with ways in which we can stop the boats, more importantly, but also have a little bit of humanity. I mean, we're not an inhumane country, and we do want to help people who genuinely need help, but I think that we need to have some proportion about that number of people, and also get them processed in an efficient and quick way. And Paul Britton and I, the leading criminal lawyer, have been sort of mulling over that. Phil says, stop the money, stop the boats, grow a pair, we're being invaded, human rights, what about the rights of this country? So thank you for that. Another one here, we should find the French, so I'm just going to sort of paraphrase some of these because I'm trying to get through as many of them as possible. We should find the French £1 million for every boat that enters British waters.
I agree with that, Cristo, actually. I think we should find the French.
Well, instead we're giving the French money.
We should just find them.
Another one here as well, immigration is about cheap labour following ideas of the WEF, says Christopher, serving big business. I think that has been a big thing, is that we've built up a house of cards of our economy based on cheap labour, especially for certain jobs that we don't see as suitable for British people. And what that has meant is that we now have an awful lot of cheap labour, lower wages, and an economy that has been built on that. And I think that is a real issue that we have. They should send migrants to Pontins in Prestatyn. They'll be begging to go back from where they came from. That's very good. Birmingham. Why does the government not open safe routes? They could process applications immediately. Asylum seekers who are successful can work and pay tax, and the number of boats will reduce. We should take our fair share of asylum seekers, and there are millions wasted by the government. Well, I do think that there should be a way of processing and applying offshore with for your. I mean, it's moronic to me that we say to people, stop the boats, but then also Suella Braverman admitted, well, the only way that you could actually get here is by boat. That is one of the only ways, or smuggle yourself in, and that's the only way you can claim asylum. Well, if you can,
and airport security is so strict they can't come in by plane, so they have to come in by boat. And
then we say, well, actually, sorry, now you've come in by boat. Well, if we gave a mechanism that you could apply for asylum whilst outside of the UK, then that would mean, and if that was rejected, well, then you know you can't come to the UK.
But the problem with that policy would be, if anyone in the world could apply for asylum outside of the UK, how are we going to process that volume of applications?
Well, you'd have to just get it together, because at the moment we're not processing barely any.
You could be talking millions of applications, people that want to come here
for asylum.
Look, all these asylum cases, a lot of them aren't They don't need asylum. They just want to come here. So you just got to be a little bit careful about what you're opening yourself up to in terms of asylum claims. Anybody could put together an asylum claim.
And that's your legal view.
Anybody could put together an asylum. They could make a reasonable.
But can't we limit it to certain countries and say, well, look, we have
now
a list
you're
of
discriminating, saying you're saying that. Now that's discrimination, because you're saying if you were fortunate enough to be born in a certain country, you can now apply for asylum in this country. But if you were born there, you can't apply.
No, well, absolutely. I mean, because by that logic,
but shouldn't people be treated the same regardless of where they're born?
No, because by that logic, because of course not. Because I shouldn't be able to claim asylum somewhere. Because I live in a country that has a level of laws and
you
protections.
warm your cup before you have your cup of tea.
But by your logic, people from America should be able to claim asylum here. That we should have a more comprehensive prescribed list of unsafe countries. That list could be updated
America's
every
a big place.
year.
I think you mean the United States.
But
some states have they treat people outrageously, particularly the black community. So if you look at the statistics about offences against black people, particularly in the southern states, then they might have grounds to say, I'm not safe living here anymore.
Those are anomalies rather than that's the law not being applied properly rather than there not being a law to protect those people. But the end
result is the same.
Yeah, but that's different.
They are living in a country
I consider that to be
a state where it's not safe.
But I consider that to be an internal problem. That's the law that should exist to help people and that is there, but it's not being applied properly.
But all of these problems are internal problems to a particular country.
So should I be able to apply asylum for somewhere?
Well, I don't. What, from here?
Yes. Because by your logic, I'm as equal as someone coming from a country where
because
I'm repressed.
You warm your cup. I mean,
exactly,
you live in the lap of luxury.
You're contradicting yourself.
No, I'm not, because there is no data in this country. There are no statistics that you could hook onto to say that you're in danger of being here.
Yeah, but by your logic that anyone could apply, I could say, and it's an example I cite a lot.
Being here?
Well, okay, here's an example. I could say, look, I'm a gay man, and the police.
I'm a gay man as well.
The police never picked up the murder of Stephen Port, and the Grindr killer was killing people. And I go on Grindr all the time, so I feel unsafe, and I feel that if I'm going to get murdered, I could put together a case.
That's right, you could.
To say, right,
I'm not safe
so
here.
should I be able to apply for asylum elsewhere?
You should be able to apply if you're treating everybody equally, but your application will be rejected.
Well, or should it be that you say, well, look, that was an anomaly, and the UK should not be on the list of countries where people could claim asylum
and
from.
it would be rejected immediately.
Well, exactly. So then, why?
If they were really clever and up to date, they could even use AI to screen out applications like that.
But and also just say, look, we have a prescribed list of countries every year where you can claim asylum from because they are considered unsafe. We review it every year. We review it every 6 months, and some countries will end up being, that may become more progressive. We end up seeing them as better. And come off the list. Other countries where perhaps there is more unrest or where there might be a war, we put them on the list, and then you can apply from abroad.
I still think if you just listed those countries, you would end up with millions of applications.
But isn't that?
And you would have a problem. You'd talk about a backlog.
But it would be a backlog we're not paying for here. We've got a backlog now, but we're paying to put people up for that backlog. Whereas at least this backlog, it wouldn't be pleasant for them while waiting for their application to be heard. But how else? I mean, it's just one of the methods that could ease the issue. That's all. I mean, I don't know. It's not a perfect solution.
I don't think that would work. I think you just have too many applications.
AJW says, what do you mean we are sympathetic to the world's problems? The public is sick to death of being the dumping ground for the world's problems. Thank you.
Actually, that's where all this stems from. People are sick to death of listening to the world's problems. We have problems in this country that we should be addressing.
We do have problems in this country that we should be addressing, and I think asylum is actually about 3% of immigration.
Yeah.
So it's actually a very small proportion of the amount of immigration.
So then we're back to it's a vote winner, it's a headline swinger, and actually it winds people up a lot. And to fix it, or to be seen to have fixed it, is people will vote for you on that, which I think is quite sad. There's huge issues in this country.
In actual fact, the immigration numbers are absolutely sky high that aren't asylum seekers, and that is a real problem, because the issue that we have is whether the culture of the UK is changing, whether people are British or not in their outlook. I don't think you need to have been born here to be British in your outlook, and I think that is...
So it's sharing our values.
Sharing our values, that's an issue, and I think that's an issue that rightly worries people, and I don't think you're some sort of terrible prejudiced bigot to consider that. But I think more importantly, the issue is infrastructure. And I think even if we stopped now, even if we said, right, we're stopping right now, no one's coming here in any way, shape or form, I think it would still take us 20 years to build the houses, hospitals, doctor's appointments and schools that we would need to catch up with the number of people here versus...
Population is in this country is going to decrease. And we've already seen globally the number of over 65s. There are more over 65s than there are people between the ages of 0 and 4, so newborns. So we are going to have fewer people in this country. So...
Blame the gays for that.
Which is why... What, not having children?
Yeah.
There's too many of us now.
We're everywhere.
And now there's 3 in the room.
Cristo, I would vote for you if you decided to go into politics, says Dave.
Which party would you stand for, Cristo?
Cristo, which party would I stand
would you go into?
I don't know.
Which one do you closely align with?
Ideologically, I'm sort of Thatcherite Tory, but I couldn't vote for this lot.
Well, that doesn't exist
So
anymore.
you've been reform.
That's gone.
You and Richard
Are you
Tice.
reform?
Yes, I'm deputy leader.
Okay.
Yes.
I wouldn't vote for reform with that waistcoat.